This is the MIAA Weekly.
Welcome to the MIAA Weekly, our Week 0 preview. I've got my expert here, Jon Dykstra, along with your host of a few different shows here on D2. But we're going to go ahead and we got a lot of games. Jon, we got 10 games we got to go through here.
Yeah, making the pick 'em, it's like, man, this thing stretches on forever.
Yeah. Now we're gonna break down a few games a little bit more than others. Let's be frank. We've got two contests where the MIAA is going against a top 5 team in our poll, and so those ones are gonna obviously take some precedence. And then we're gonna go ahead and break down the rest, and go ahead and pick each one of them. Obviously put a little bit more weight on Jon's picks. He's the MIAA expert. I'm just the guy who challenges his picks every once in a while.
Trying to weasel out of it.
And now, Jon, we're also going to go ahead and, for those who aren't aware, tell everybody a little bit about the pick'em that you guys do there at the Maryville Forum that you run. A little bit of background on it and kind of some of who our folks are in it, because we're going to incorporate that a little bit more this time around, and we can have a graphic and have a little fun with it.
Yeah, with the last couple of years, we've done a pick 'em with the paper, and it's just me and whoever from around the MIAA that covers the MIAA has participated in the pick 'em. So sorry, I had something pop up on here. But anyway, the pick 'em, yeah, it's writers from around the MIAA or radio people, and we just have fun and pick some games, and I lose every year because I try to get too cute with it. And if I can see a path for an upset, I pick an upset. But those paths, sometimes they don't work out, and you might see some of that with this week's picks.
And I think something that our fans who are tuning in will see throughout this year, Jon and I are not afraid to go ahead and stand on an upset pick and go after it. What's the worst thing that we're going to do? Get roasted by some fans. Oh well, we both. This isn't my first rodeo or yours either, so we're okay with all that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and you and I will kind of pop on into things here momentarily. And our first game that we're going to talk about, Jon, on our MIAA Weekly, is actually the game that you and I are both going to attend. Now, we're not driving together or anything like that. Jon's heading up
be a
with
little
the radio
out of the way for either of us.
Exactly. So, I know you're begging for me to get into some of Witt's geography right there. That was a nice tease that you did, but I'm gonna push back on it. Jon's gonna be there. You're gonna travel with the radio crew from Northwest, and you guys will be there in plenty of time for the game. And I'm going to go ahead and basically leave at about middle of the day from Sioux Falls, about a 2.5 hour trip from where I'm at. And hopefully, Jon, we get a little bit of time where you and I can kind of hang out field level. Maybe we'll go ahead and do a little bit of coverage, maybe even an interview or two from field level. Look for some of that on our Twitter. On our D2 Twitter. We don't have an MIAA Weekly Twitter. Just go right to our D2 Twitter. You may see some of that if you want to kind of get some coverage before you head on out to the game. Or if you're Northwest fans and you're not making the trip, absolutely make sure you will be your top source for that. But Jon, let's talk a little bit about you have been to Blakesley Stadium before. In Mankato.
It's been a minute.
Let's a little bit about that. Yeah.
For those who don't know, I actually went to school at Missouri Western, so down the road from Northwest here. And Missouri Western, once upon a time, had a coach named Jerry Partridge that brought them to several playoff appearances. And one of those appearances brought them to Mankato, Minnesota, where it did not end well for the Fight and Griffs, but it was a fun trip up during my college years to go watch a football game. So It was, regardless of the outcome, was a fun game at Blakesley Stadium. So I'm excited to get back more than a decade later at this point.
Now, remind me if you would. I want to say that was 2012, and
Yeah,
and Mankato hosted Northwest. They beat Northwest, then they beat Missouri Western, then they eventually lost to Valdosta in the semis. Does that sound about right?
that sounds correct
Okay.
from that. Yep, that was Missouri. For your Missouri Western fans out there, that was David Bass at defensive end, Michael Hill at running back, Travis Partridge, coach's son, at quarterback. So that was the heyday for Missouri Western, now Mo West football.
And they, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they have a heck of an opening round game with Duluth that they came out on
They
top in
did.
like
They
a
did.
50 something game or something like that?
They beat Duluth, yeah, something like that. I don't remember the score, but they beat Duluth down in St. Joe, and like you said, the Mavs beat Northwest, so it was kind of those two teams coming together after taking down each other's rivals, and yeah, the Mavs got the better of the Griffs that day.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so for those kind of looking at the image that we have, the homestand is on the bottom side of the screen. The visitors on the away, and John and I will be, roaming the sidelines. And for those who haven't been there before, there is not much room between the sideline and the concrete barrier.
Especially when you're me and Witt size.
Yeah, you and I will.
After a good lunch before,
We might need to eat lightly before that game, because that will be getting from one end to the other when taking photos or video and covering a game can be a bit of a dance to just. It's not one of those where it's just an open walkway by any means, but one of the few grass stadiums you see anymore, John, and they keep it in such good shape. And you probably didn't see a lot of that when you were there because it was late in the year and the weather was cold. But you'll get a chance to see this in kind of full bloom here. I think I remember the first time I was at the stadium, I had to ask somebody, is this turf or is this grass? If I have to ask that says something.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. And yeah, there aren't too many grass fields left in the MIAA. So that's going to be different and a fun trip up there to play on the natural grass.
Yeah. Now, and for those watching, when you see a bunch of people sitting behind an end zone, that'll be on the right side. There's a grass berm that goes up a little bit of a little hill, and a bunch of people will be up there. I got a feeling they're going to have pretty good attendance for this football game. Thursday night, the weather is supposed to be good, everything that comes with that. So we're expecting a lot of high energy, and kind of leading the conversation about this game is we've got Coach Mack and Coach Hoffner here. Coach Hoffner has become one of the more well-known coaches at our level here in D2 football, and Coach Mack, taking on over for Northwest, immediately kind of gets thrust pretty far up in that conversation in terms of, immediately you're going to become a high profile person, not to mention he, played at Northwest and everything that goes with that. Now, what's interesting is, and I made a reference to this the other night, but the only time that Coach Mack has been a head coach at Blakesley was back in 2021. And back in 2021, his Wayne State squad found themselves down 24-7 in the third quarter. And in the fourth quarter, they put up a 28 spot, and went ahead and wins this game 35-24. I remember that very well, watching it. And then we had him on our show the next night after the win, because they had beaten Duluth and they beat Mankato. So Coach Mack knows a little bit about playing up there, and I'm assuming that Coach Hoffner would want nothing more than to avenge that setback at that time.
Yeah, I wasn't quite as much into the national scene at that point. But yeah, I remember that week because yeah, as you can see at the top of the screen, that put Wayne at 5-1 and really kind of announced their presence
Yes.
in the Northern Sun, but more so nationally that they were a team that could play with anybody.
Yeah, they got ranked right after that, and then later in the year, they dropped a game in Fayette at Upper Iowa. So they had the high ceiling, low floor situation present itself. But as we come into this game, we were taking a look at the two deep. Essentially who's kind of first string, second string, and all that kind of stuff comes out early in the week, as
It's a
provided by the
great day
coach.
when I get the old game notes.
Exactly. And I wanted to mention, kind of for MIAA fans, there's two guys that jumped out to me, John, when I looked at the two deep for Northwest. And one's a wideout, Erwin Nash, and then one is a running back, Tayshawn Porter. Both are listed as starters. Tell us a little bit about both of them, because for people who even follow the MIAA, they're probably not going to be real familiar with them.
Yeah, Erwin Nash, first of all, K-State transfer, first year in the program this year. Big guy, 6'3", 217. That's a big receiver out there. And in the practices I saw, he was really standing out during the fall camp. So I was not surprised to see him listed as a starter. They returned their top receiver and second team MIAA guy in Luke Matthews, but around him, it's a lot of new faces at receiver. So with the way he was playing in the fall, I was not surprised to see him top the depth chart out there. And it'll be interesting. Definitely a downfield, big play, kind of throw it up to him type guy. A little, if you're an NFL fan, think a little Mike Evans, just a D2 version. He's obviously not Mike Evans, but it's yeah, he's just a big body that they're put out there at receiver. I think they'll have a deep receiver rotation, but I'm not surprised to see him factor in heavily into it. And to Sean Porter on the other side, a sophomore running back who a lot of people wanted to see more of last year as the running game struggled. He was kind of considered maybe the top pure runner on the team. We've talked before, guys like Tank Young, Jaden Brady, pass catchers playing running back. Deshaun Porter's more your traditional running back in that way. And I think he had some pass down stuff to work on, whether that is catching a ball or more so pass protection. And I think they've obviously he's listed as a starter, so they feel like they've worked some of that out with him, and he'll have an experienced backup behind him with Jaden Brady being a team captain, and like I said, more that third down back. But Porter should add a little bit to the running game this year, I think.
Yeah. Now, who are some other guys that haven't necessarily been a household name, John, for Northwest, that you think maybe on the defensive side that people are going to get to know in a hurry?
Well, before we go straight there, I think the other interesting thing is the offensive line coming together. They have the two Merriman brothers back on the interior, but they've got UCO transfers, started at UCO at the other guard spot, Reese Trammell, and then two sophomores at tackle. One of them is a very familiar name to D2 fans if you have the history with Pierce Wand. His father, Seth Wand, was a third-round draft pick back in the day, the highest ever Northwest draft pick. So his son, Pierce, is listed as a starter at right tackle, and then Caleb McCullough is listed at left tackle. And I think most people expected Pierce to maybe earn the right tackle job, but McCullough unseats last year's starter, Jack Gouge. And that's a new name out there, and kind of exciting that he apparently showed enough to, like I said, unseat last year's starting left tackle. So little new look on the line, but defensively, it's not a whole lot of surprises in that group. you've got kind of your staples at every level of the defense with Clayton Power and Niall Shuett at the defensive tackle spots, Carter Edwards at middle linebacker, and Shane Fredrickson and Holden Zigmont at safety. And that's kind of where they're building through that spine of the defense. A little bit more questions outside of them, but kind of everybody we kind of expected to see start is starting. O'Shea Davis, a transfer from Stephen F. Austin, is their number one corner. He is the new face that you'll see, but other than that, they return a lot defensively, and I think should be pretty good on that side of the ball early because of that continuity.
Well, as we go ahead and we took a look at Northwest, their opponent, some interesting new additions for Mankato. Now, there's a graphic here. Trayshawn Watson is a guy who was on our Elite 100 team as a wideout. Definitely the top downfield threat for the Mavs. A guy who's 6'4", can go up and high point it, and he can be a handful. But Marcus Hansen is a pretty big addition, and Marcus Hansen comes from Bemidji State. He had been a two-time Elite 100 All-American with us and pretty much everybody else for that matter. And a guy who can really get around the edge. I remember, watching him against Sioux Falls last year where they ran, a quarterback keep to the right side, and he ran the play down from behind like it was nothing. And his speed is definitely something, and a nice edge guy. Now, a guy that not a lot of people are going to know in Mankato just yet is Mizell Williams, who came in from Minot State, an all-conference guy, played safety. He's kind of a rover type player, and they're going to use him at backer, and they're going to go ahead and let him just kind of roam and do his thing and make plays, and he will hit you. And he's going to be wearing number 1 this year. So when you're watching the game on Thursday and you see number 1 coming in and closing the play out, that's the guy we're talking about right there. So he got in the portal and came on over to Mankato. And John, these are kind of some of the defensive additions that we're talking about. We've got Marcus Hansen and Mizell both here, who are high-level all-conference guys, get added to this defense.
I feel like the chat probably knows a little bit about Mizell. We got some Minot fans in the chat tonight, I know.
Yep. I saw that. Yep. And so as we're going ahead and we're looking at this here, Mankato's also going to have some other guys that are some D1 dropbacks in the second, portion of the defense. I'm really curious to see how they all gel together, John, because they have a lot of new parts defensively. Last year, Mankato had 2 very good big defensive ends that were really able to change the action, in my opinion, against Northwest.
They certainly did, against Northwest. Yep.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, Runke was having to step up in the pocket and try and escape the rush, and really disrupted things, I thought. And it'll be interesting to see if Hansen can be a part of Mankato trying to do that again. Because I thought that kind of knocked Northwest right off their spot early in that football game. And before you knew it, they were having to kind of play chase. So
massive test for those 2 young tackles, that's for sure.
Well, so that kind of brings us into, and we're for each show, we're going to go ahead and kind of have their own set of graphics or game stuff like this. So we realize that both of these teams don't always wear white helmets. Don't feel like you got to hit us in the comments. We get it. We're doing this just kind of for a clean matchup and graphics. So we're starting off with this game, John. We've got Northwest going to Blakesley. How do you see this one playing out?
Well, I think going into it, Mankato is certainly the heavy favorite. I'd be curious what Massey thinks of it, even with the Northwest Massey love. I can't imagine.
Is that your way of saying Witt, pull up Massey's sidecar just so we have that. Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
because I'm incapable of it, so I don't even know how
Apparently.
to work Massey. I take pride in that. But anyway, like I kind of alluded to earlier, and we're starting off with the upset, I guess, for me, because if I see a way it can happen, I kind of am gonna lean into making it interesting and having the upset pick. And I think Northwest, this new offense, it's just different enough to maybe throw some wrinkles at Mankato, and I I'm gonna go with Northwest, even though Mankato, I have them as a top 5 team in the country, just like our poll does now. They're at home. There's no reason for me to go for Northwest, but I think with the new coaching staff, everything going on with that, they might have some wrinkles, and they're just going to be fired up for this first game with the new staff. And I'd like to see a good game in when I make the trip up there. So I'm gonna say it's a close game and that Northwest finds a way at the end.
Well, one thing I've noticed over the years is that this defense that Mankato runs been very much a similar look for quite a bit of time. That 4-2-5, they can be had in the passing game if you can keep your quarterback upright. And some other teams in the past have hurt them that way. So don't think for a moment that Coach Mack doesn't realize that. So I'm really expecting for Northwest to have a few headshots, that and hit some big plays and have some plays where they get loose on Mankato. But at the same time, I do think Mankato at home, on the grass, it's a place that they are very, very comfortable with. And I think that means something here. Now, for what it's worth, Northwest is a 1.5-point favorite according to Massey, because first of all, we know Massey has got a lot of love for the MIAA,
Yeah,
but
that
they're
shows
taking,
that.
but they're taking the last few years of history. We've talked about this before into consideration. So, you take a look back to when Northwest was very high in the Massey rankings, let's say 3 years ago. That's playing into this as well. So we'll take that for what it is. But I'm taking Mankato here. You've got Northwest, but should be a great game. Hope everybody kind of tunes in. We've got our guy AC,
Yeah, I was
who
going to
does our
say
RMAX show.
the AC point spread, it might be a little bit more accurate than the Massey point spread if this thing was available in Vegas.
I think that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Well, let's go ahead, John, and move ahead with what we have for our other big games. And before we kind of talk about our Pitt State game, you can see who they are with Ferris on the graphic. We kind of alluded to this the other day, John, about Pitt State's schedule. Well, let's go ahead and take a look a little bit. Up at the very top there, you got Ferris State, you got Central Oklahoma, you got Grand Valley. Right out of the chute, that is number 1 in our poll, number 3 in our poll, number 6 in our poll, right there. Then from there, we get to Fort Hays. What are they? Number 20 in our poll, something like that.
And number 1 in my heart.
Yeah, so pretty wild.
You know, I'm high on Hayes, but yeah, and then Emporia right after.
Yeah, so this speaks to how challenging it is. Now, you would think that was pretty much be everything, but then when they get to the back half of this, you got Central Mo and Northwest to close the whole thing out too. So
yeah,
it's not like they just got off the hook if they get out to a good start. So
after
that's crazy.
There's 2 ways this can go, really, in my opinion. After week 4, they are either going to be the number 1 team in the country, or they are going to be out of playoff contention in week 4. Like,
Well, that means that they're going to go 2-2 and be somewhere in the middle of all that, right?
If they're 2-2 and one of those losses is in the MIAA, it makes it tough. But yes, that would be the middle scenario. But I just don't see. They're either going to play well or not play well, and it's a very slippery slope each way.
Yeah, it just speaks to how challenging that start is.
Mm.
Frankly, I think if they went 2-2, I think they're in the thick of the playoff hunt because they will be favorites every game after that. So yeah, but
Probably.
it's
You would assume that at least one of those losses is to a GLIAC team. So yeah, they don't have one conference loss. So you're probably right.
yeah. I mean, let's give them kudos, though. I mean, this is a thing where we talk about being ambitious with your scheduling. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
let's see, how that plays out.
It
But
makes it more interesting, that's for sure.
so that does kind of lead us into what we have here with Pitt State going to Ferris State. And for those who aren't real familiar with what's Ferris State going to look like after Trinidad Chambliss and so forth. A good indication would be Carson Gulker, their quarterback, who's a big fella, by the way. He's, I don't know, 6'4", 230, and can run. And he had, 30 touchdowns or something like that
Yeah.
as a freshman coming on in, kind of being their goal line guy. And their offensive line was the line of scrimmage would become middle of the end zone with the way they moved. And so he's a guy who comes off of a broken leg after in week 2 last year. Now, kind of fast forward, he looks like he's going to be their starting quarterback, but I have a feeling that they're going to give some other guys, maybe a series here, maybe a series there in the game to also take a little bit of the workload off of him. But Ferris wants to play big boy football with him. And for what it's worth, he played last year, John, in the Pitt State game.
Yeah.
And he had one run where he got like 15 and he actually put the ball on the deck. And he didn't play a lot because Trinidad Chambliss was the guy they were trying to roll out. And Trinidad had a real bad football game. And so Pitt State really had the right attack mode for them a year ago. So it kind of moves us into we talked a little bit about Ferris, but on Pitt's side, what are your thoughts with, they got a quarterback battle that's been going on. We've got guys like Jackson Berry, who's come on over from Southern Utah. Maybe is he one of the guys in the mix, but they should have plenty of good receivers. They brought in a guy from Stephen F. Austin. They brought in another guy from Incarnate Word, both who they've kind of said, hey, we want them to be impact guys. Do you think that we see a little bit more of a passing game from Pitt or an emphasis on it this year? What are your thoughts coming into this one?
I would think that you have to try to lean on it a little bit more this year. I mean, they've had Chad Dotson the last few years, and Chad was a prototypical kind of game manager quarterback at this level. He kept them in the game, and now do you see what happened in the playoffs last year and say, okay, we need to be more dynamic offensively and do that. They, like you said, they have the receivers to do it. They returned some on the line too, couple real talented linemen. They lost some guys there as well. So you question if the running game is quite what it was last year. Last year, they turned this into an ugly street fight, and they won it, and they looked like the team prepared to win that kind of game. They have to do that again this year, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to out-athlete Ferris State. Ferris State is as athletic as they get in D2. And I don't think that's going to be your recipe for success if you're Pittsburgh. I think you need to try to play this game in a phone booth and win this game there. Take your shots if you can get them, but you need to be the more physical team just like they were last year. And I don't know if they can do that this year.
Watching the way Slippery Rock took some vertical shots and had success against Ferris in the semifinals, it makes me wonder if that would be the sneak attack if you're somebody like Pitt and wants to go ahead and not be overly predictable. I'm curious to see if we get some of that in the first half. If Ferris State gets out to a 2-score lead early, this game's over with. I think Ferris will then smell, you get the blood in the water, and I think that'll be over with. I think Pitt really needs to be able to control tempo, be able to control the ball, and not let that get away. And that's very much what they did a year ago. A lot
They
of
do
people
not have.
Yeah,
They
I'm sorry.
don't have the front seven that they did a year ago, though. Maybe it will prove that they will with the additions they made, but they lost a lot in their front seven last year, and that really controlled that game. And with Golker playing more quarterback and his style with the run, that front seven is going to be tested, and I don't know if they're ready for that test at this point. We'll obviously see when this thing gets kicked off, but that's my concern for that Pitt defense. I don't think you're going to hurt them too much in the pass game, but stopping that run is what really concerns me.
So I'm going to assume that we have both landed on Ferris here.
We have. I think I said in the chat on Sunday, couple scores. I think it is a couple score game, and I could even see it getting out of hand, but I don't think this game is in doubt in the fourth quarter. Put it that way.
Fair enough. Let's go ahead and move on to the other games that we have. We got Kearney with an in-state rival. Game that both teams really wanted to get on the schedule. It's great that they're able to now with how we've kind of broken down those silos in both the Northern Sun and in the MIAA against Wayne State. Who do you got here, John, and why?
Quick shout out to Kearney too, because I know we got AC in the chat. They're playing both in-state rivals with Shadron too. Obviously, we'll get to that next. That's just good for the state of Nebraska. D2 football to have all those teams playing each other. So I have Kearney in this one. Maybe it's a little homerish with my MIAA knowledge, but I just think the Lopers. Isaiah Harris is one of the best backs in the country. Not many people know about.
No doubt.
He's a really good football player, and I think they return enough on defense. And frankly, Ryan Held impressed me. I had real concerns going into last year with the state of the program and the direction that the Lopers were going. And they didn't do anything too national headline grabby last year with slightly above 500 record. But I mean, it was enough they were going in the right direction. And I think with Wayne State, they lost quite a bit, and they might be going in the wrong direction right now. And certainly that can turn around. But right now, I think I'm betting on the Lopers.
My concerns in this game are more with the losses that Wayne State has offensively. I think defensively they're going to be just fine, but I think that they're going to have a little bit of an ask on what they're going to look like offensively, and I think Kearney's going to play a very physical style. I'll take Kearney in this one myself.
Man, we got them converted, guys. MIAA homer Witt.
Well, we'll see.
We'll put that to a test in this one.
This is going to be a rocky ride. There's a whole lot of MIAA playing other conferences this week, John. So we're going to have to see if I'm the homer or not. But
Gulf South homer Witt.
So what do you got here, John? You got Central Mo. We're going to have to see who's going to be the quarterback. Plenty of weapons offensively. Rich Wright, his debut for their defense. They're traveling down to Cleveland, Mississippi to play Delta State. And Delta State's bringing back their quarterback. They're bringing back some guys on defense. Kind of a little bit of a mixed bag in terms of everything they're bringing back. They're losing some guys that we had that were kind of elite 100 type players at guard and at running back. What do you make of this? I think this is a pretty even ball game, isn't it?
Yeah, I was surprised on the Sunday show that it went the way it did with Delta getting more love than Central Missouri, but I get it. I've been saying Central Missouri is the biggest wild card in the MIAA. I could see them finishing nearly anywhere in the league because of how much faith I have in the coaches, but in how much I don't know about the roster yet. I mean, we know about some of the transfers, but they're in new spots now, and every year is different when you change teams. So I
Yeah.
don't know if I can. I don't know exactly what they're going to look like, especially week one. I think that can play to their advantage, though, in this game, where Delta might not know exactly what they're going to look like in week one, especially defensively. Rich Wright's played one style of defense his whole time at Northwest, and he recruits to that style. He didn't get that luxury at Central Missouri. He's playing with the cards he was dealt for the most part. And so I think defensively they could be interesting. And without Zabrowski and with all the running backs they brought in, I think they could look different offensively. So I'm intrigued by this game. I think Central Missouri gets it done just because the fourth place team in the MIAA, I think, should beat the fourth place team in the Gulf South, considering it's a 4-team league, by where they were voted in the preseason coaches poll. And at this point in the season, I put some stock in the coaches poll, even though it's like we've said before, it's a lot based on what they did last year. But the coaches know more about what teams are bringing in than either of us do, really. And they've got some faith in what UCM's got, and I'll have some faith in them too. I'll pick the Mules.
I'm going back and forth on this one. I did pick the
tell.
Mules as well, but Delta, they're the kind of team that they end up getting picked last in their 4-team Gulf South. But at the same time, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they finished as high as second in that league. They're always going to have athletes. They always do. And so when we take a look, this isn't going to be one of those cases where Mo West just gets to out athlete somebody. I don't think you're going to see that here. But I do like the combination of Lambo and Rich Wright together. I think I'm gonna go ahead and favor that and go with Central Mo on the road. I don't feel real strong about it, but whatever team wins, I think has a nice notch in their belt early in the year. Whoever comes away with a win there.
Whatever team wins, Witt picked them at least twice this offseason. You've gone back and forth on these ones.
Yes. And by the way, we've got our guy. We've one of our people tuning on in. We've got our guy Brandon Meisner talking about the Gulf South is always strong.
Absolutely.
And that's a great point because they're always going to have real good athletes in the Gulf South, and it's a bit of a neutralizing factor. So that's why I could see this going either direction. But,
it's only 4 teams, but it's 4 banger of the teams. Like
yes.
there's not a weak team in that. There's not somebody you're going to step over in that league.
Moving on into the next game.
The chat is fired up.
I was going to say that the chat probably is going to have a mind of its own here in a moment. But we've got Minot State. Ian Shields brings the Beavers down to Emporia. I think they left last night. It's such a long trip. But no, they're going down to Emporia. I think he said 16 hours or whatever it was when I talked to Coach back about 3-4 weeks ago. And I tell you, John, we may not have a bigger clash in styles than we have with this football game all season long. You've got Ian Shields, who has been at Lenore Ryan. He's been at Jacksonville State. He's been at places where he has, also has history with the armed services, and he has played a football style that is running the triple. Now he's not afraid to have his quarterback stop and pop. So they're not totally trying to be hurting, with kind of that flex bone, but at the same time, if they don't need to throw it, they're not going to throw it.
Well, if you're
So
better at it than Harding, you might as well just keep doing it.
reference to last night's show, but defensively, very physical football team.
Yeah.
And they kind of play with a bit of a chip on their shoulder. And they got Sioux Falls last year in a game where Sioux Falls was up early, and the second half, Minot took over and played a little keep away, and that was that football game. Now, on the other side, Emporia is going to play a little bit more of that, 7-on-7 style where we're going to be slinging it a ton. And I'm real curious to see if Minot is able to kind of control some tempo and get their style of football, because I think the challenge that they're going to have, John, is I think Emporia is probably going to have better athletes flat out. I mean, I know Minot fans aren't going to hear that, but it's we're being honest on this show. Emporia, I think, has some more talent, but can they play this in this style of game? And how do you think this one goes, John?
Well, if we were doing that graphic where you throw up 2 pictures of offensive players for these teams, for Emporia, you throw up Trendon Collins, and then I don't know who that second player would be because they are replacing that much offensively, placing running back, top receiver, quarterback, everything. So it's a new look for Coach Higgins, but he manages to find a way to score points no matter who he's got. I mean, he's had a long enough track record of that. And I'm leaning Emporia, but I would not be surprised any way this thing goes. I think I'll lean Emporia for the home field advantage. I think they'll have a big crowd out there. They're doing some stuff to juice up attendance, and I think they'll see that for sure in week 1. And I'm going Emporia, but I would not be shocked either way this thing turns out.
Now, you mentioned they're going to be doing something for attendance. Let's have you elaborate a little bit on that. They're doing a thing where this game is free to get into it's not for the luxury seats, or what's the deal with it again?
For general admission tickets, so not for the reserve seats, the chairbacks, as a lot of places call them, where they have reserved. But for general admission all year long, you can get into Emporia State games for free, calling it their year of celebration. And so, any Emporia game, if you're an MIAA fan of another team, maybe this is the year to take that road trip to Emporia you've been waiting to go on your whole life, because you can get in for free. So check out a Hornets game this year.
Now, John, when you asked me to participate in your pick'em thing, the 8 guys or whatever we have in there, you asked me to turn in those picks. That's probably 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah, I did that MIAA preview pretty early this year.
Yes, to try and get my picks as early as to give me a lack of preparation. I understand. Now,
did you flip on another?
Hold on! Don't stop! Don't be trying to do that now. Back when I turned in those picks, let's just say there was a bit of a reaction when I took the Beavers to go down and win this game. The 5 and 6 Beavers, I have them going down and winning at Emporia. Now I realize they're I mean, Massey's got them as an 18-point underdog, but I like.
What's AC got him as? AC, what you got him as?
Apparently he's doing the pick'em. So Carson Crispin, their quarterback, is a safety who got converted on over to playing option quarterback a few seasons ago. Tough player. And Evan Lovett's a very good running back that I think is going to be a handful. Maybe there's a little bit of my native, northern son going into this pick, but I'm taking Minot here and I'm staying with it, John. So I had that weeks ago, but I'm staying with this pick. And I told Coach Shields when I talked to him, I said, I like this matchup, Coach. I'm taking you guys here. And he said, "Oh boy." So
he appreciated the pick. Usually coaches sometimes prefer you going the other way.
Coach knows I got his back. So let's let's move ahead and AC adds MIAA plus 150.
Wow.
We're getting technical betting advice here at this point from
Yeah, we kind of switched. I don't understand that as quite as much.
yeah. He's
Stick
saying
with the points, AC.
he's saying that if he bets $100, he'd win 150.
Yeah,
That's come on now, even I know that. But
I
anyway,
I did understand, but yeah, I'm just trying to get him to stick with points.
yeah, I know he doesn't get it quite yet. But so we got a rematch of a big game a season ago. We've got Angelo
Yeah.
State going to Fort Hays State. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts about this contest.
Hayes by what 150? I mean,
Oh,
no. I said it in the chat the other day.
Technical betting things, but yes.
Well, no, that's point spread. This Hayes team unbeatable. No, the
and Fort Hays is a 6.5 point favorite according to Massey, by the way.
I said it in the chat the other day. I think Hayes is my team this year. They were kind of my team last year too. And it paid off at the end of this year, not as much at the beginning, but they did beat Angelo at the beginning, despite what turned out being the second best quarterback on the roster playing that game. And I kind of see with Huebner back this year and that defense largely being intact, I like Hayes in this one quite a bit. I think Hayes wins this one, couple scores fairly comfortably, kind of like I said with Ferris and Pitt, where by the fourth quarter you kind of know which way this is going to go. And I think Hayes gets this win. I'm higher on Hayes than most, I understand. But I think if they could beat them last year, I think they're a better team this year. And I know Angelo added pieces too. But I think Hayes is set up to maybe make a little bit of a statement week 0 here.
Angelo gonna have a chip on their shoulder after losing this game a year ago. Mm-hmm. They come into Hayes and win. Ship it. Let's go to the next one.
I like going against you on that one, so that's fun.
Yep. We're starting to get a little bit more of that. I'm okay with it. So we've got Mo West traveling up I-29 to go play at Augustana in Sioux Falls. A Mo West team that I think is a little bit better than you media down there and the coaches think. But
us alums down here.
Tell for what are your thoughts about Mo West? Do you think that they've got the offensive weapons to hang around in this?
I think week 1 they have probably more offensive weapons than unfortunately they might have later in the year. I think a healthy Brandon Hall could keep them in this game. We saw it last year. He was one of the best running backs in the country before he got hurt, and he's still one of the best running backs in the country in my estimation, as long as he's healthy. So having him, I don't know if I can trust that passing game yet. In fact, I think I can't until I see it. But they've got athletes on defense. I think they could hang in there, but going to Augie is a different animal. I know they've lost quite a bit on both sides of the ball as well. But they've got that kind of tradition of winning and finding a way to win a tight game like this. And over the last few years, Mo West has struggled with that. So I'm going against the MIAA in this one. I'm picking Augie. But I'm excited to see how this one turns out, because I think this one will tell us more than most of these matchups about both teams.
Well, I will be heading on over to this game. This is a Saturday contest. I'm going to be at Northwest Mankato Thursday. This will be my Saturday game. Love the fact that week 0 I get a chance to get a twofer in for three, two games in 3 days. That said, I think the Griffins, I think they could beat Augie. I don't think they will, but I think that that they are going to be a test for Augie. Augie lost a lot of the heart of their defense and some All-American players. At the same time, they lose Epperson at running back, who's a home run hitter. And I think that they just got a lot of production to replace. And at the same time, I think that Mo West probably a little more athletic squad. And I think we're going to see a few times where that bears out. I think Augie finds a way to win, but I think it's a really close game.
I would not be surprised either way this thing goes, but I'll be tuning in on Saturday. I wish I could make the trip up for a doubleheader of a weekend with you, but I'll be tuning in on either the radio or if we can find a stream of this one. But
I'll get enough of you on
should be a
Thursday.
good
I'll be
game.
fine.
There we go.
So here's a matchup. We got Truman State, former member of the conference, going to play Washburn. Now, this is probably not on a lot of people's radars because we're kind of moving away from some of the more high-profile contests. That's not taking anything away from this game because Truman is a team that's probably, we mentioned top 25 a lot on our national show, and Truman is probably in that 30-ish, right in that 30 to 35. They receive some votes in our top 25 kind of team. Probably the second best team in the GLVC behind Indianapolis. They got Denham Cook, good running back for this squad, 1,000-yard rusher. And they have a quarterback who's a dual threat. So with that, I like Truman State to win this game because of some of the firepower they have offensively. How do you see this one?
I think there's a decent chance that Truman could be a playoff team this year. The UND game, obviously, as you just mentioned, kind of reigns supreme in that conference, and I think Washburn is a bottom 2 team in the MIAA. There's really not many people arguing the other way on that. But when it's all said and done, I think there's just a different caliber of athlete going to Washburn right now than Truman, and I think Truman is ready for this year and wants that playoff spot. But I think at the end of the day, Washburn is just going to be able to out-athlete them. And I think Washburn wins a close one, but I think they win this thing and get their season off on the right track. And if Washburn is going to do that in year one of the Zach Watkins era, this is kind of a must-win game to get it off on the right track before you get into MIAA play.
Fair point. Now, Massey, which way do you think Massey went on this?
Man, the winning percentages over the last few years definitely skew towards Truman, but the MIAA factor is strong, and I would go Washburn by 4.5 in this.
Washburn by 1.5.
Okay.
So probably the home field advantage at that point. But
yeah.
Well, we're getting near the end of the line here with our games. We've got a game here where we've got Missouri Southern hosting Midwestern State, team that has kind of been down the last few years. Right before COVID, they were a playoff squad. How do you see this one? The Lone Star coming on up to Missouri Southern. These squads met a year ago, and Missouri Southern edged it out, correct?
No, Midwestern State beat them.
Oh, that's right. My bad.
And that was a big theme of MIAA Media Day for Missouri Southern.
That's right.
And Missouri Southern was the last team to go MIAA Media Day, so I kind of had a solo interview for that one. There wasn't too many other people around. And that was a theme that they were talking about, is that game really they felt derailed their season a little bit because they were pretty confident they were the better team and should have won that game, and they didn't on the road. And obviously, you just need to look at the record to see how the rest of the year went for Missouri Southern. I think they get their revenge in this one. I'm a fan of, even though success wasn't linear and they took a step back last year, I'm a fan of what Atiba Bradley's been building there, and I I think Southern finds a way to get this one done. They've got depth at running back. They've got a mystery box at quarterback. But I think they can run the ball a little bit, and I think they find a way to get this done in what nationally would probably be considered a little bit of an upset, because Midwestern State's a lot higher thought of in their conference than Missouri Southern is in theirs. But give me the Lions.
I got to admit, I lost some faith in the Lions last year.
Yeah,
I need to kind of see it first a little bit before I go with them in a game like this. I am going to take Midwestern State. They had 4 wins a year ago. They were able to play closely with teams like Western Colorado, and I'm going to take them here. I don't feel real strong about either one, but I feel like I'm moving away from taking the MIAA in some of these games, John.
The MIAA scheduled tough. Even a team like Southern punching above their weight in terms of at least conference preseason thoughts to a middle of the pack team. They're doing that in a lot of these matchups. A lot of Angelo, Mankato, Ferris teams picked to win the conference, and then even the lower teams like Washburn and Missouri Southern are punching up in terms of national perception, at least.
Well, we're going to end with a big one Saturday evening. Down, this one being played down in Texas.
Yeah.
You got UCO traveling down to UTPB, a squad that was a playoff unit 2 years ago, lost the first round of Bemidji, and then last year, quarterback got hurt right away. They still had a fruitful season, made it to a bowl game, lost a overtime contest with UCM, but Coach McCullough against Coach Dorrell here. I think this is a little bit better game than people realize. I think they just look at the rank and say, well, you got UCO, they're top 5, and PB's not ranked. Well, how do you see it, buddy?
Well, on the Sunday show, it was uttered that would be an upset if UCO won this game. So, but I don't think it is. I mean, going on the road, going to Texas is tough. But it's, I think UCO's kind of got it all put together this year. And I know there was discussion in the chat on Sunday about UCO losing a whole lot of weapons. I kind of want to dispel that a little bit. They returned a unanimous first team all-conference running back. They returned second team all-conference quarterback, who was second team behind a guy named Zach Zabrowski.
Right.
They returned the freshman of the year at receiver. They lose a hell of a receiver. But it's not like they're without weapons. They returned the offensive lineman of the year in the conference. They return a lot. There's a reason they're the number 3 ranked team in the country in our poll. I think they get it done. I think Permian Basin is a good enough team that has their attention too. UCO has struggled with that a bit over the years of maybe overlooking a team. I think Permian Basin has their attention, even with Pitt State looming next week. And I think UCO gets it done in a hard-fought game, but a game that they, again, have a little bit of cushion in the fourth quarter and manage to win by 2 scores or so.
Well, and I'm sorry, John, this is the one where I did flip on my initial pick, and I'm going with the upset pick here, and I'm taking UTPB because I'm anxious to see what West Texas transfer Cannon Gibson can do at quarterback. Nice dual threat player. Corey Harris is an All-American running back. I think the UTPB defense is a little underrated. And going and playing and being in their place, this is just one of those spots where I'm going to go ahead and take an upset here. I may very well go 0-2 on those upset picks, but you know what? We're gonna take a few swings and see what happens with these. So
you're living life to its fullest. I respect it.
Well, and initially, we're going to take a quick look here. I know this is real small for our viewers. They may not be able to zero in on this great, but John's up at the top there. And my pick back then was UCO. So, John, I'm good with being held on the record, even though I had UCO back then. I'm good with being held with UTPB. And as we go ahead and we look at the picks, I'm probably the one who strayed away from the MIAA more than anybody. And
you and Matt Daniel up there.
Yeah, so Mike Racy's probably going to give me a hard time if the MIAA, runs the table here. I'm going to look like a dummy. But,
I might hear about it in Mankato with 6 out of 8 picking the Bearcats to pull what would be a massive upset.
That did kind of catch my eye a little bit. And there's 3 people taking the Griffins as well. When you go ahead and look at that, only 1 person taking Wayne State. Now, I'm sure you guys just assumed I was going to go that direction, but
I did assume it, and you pulled the Lee Corso not so fast, my friend. On us.
I did. Well, we haven't had a chance to really talk much about this, but in our top 25 poll, we do have 4 MIAA teams in the mix here. We've got UCO up at number 3. Then, as we go ahead and we kind of move down the page a little bit. We take a look and, the immediate thought is, where does Pitt State stand here? I think they're at kind of a fairly neutral position where that 10, they're not in that immediate, top grouping, but we still think that they're better than that next group. I think that's fair, all things considered with Pitt right now. Yeah. And then as we move down a little bit further on the page, we got number 20, Fort Hays, and then 24, UCM. I haven't counted it up, but I think that's the most from any single conference, John.
I haven't counted it either. It's 1 extra team than I had in there because I didn't have UCM in. But that's got to be about the most of anybody. And with you mentioned Pitt, they're in striking range where all of a sudden they could be number 1 next week, or they could be quite a bit further down the page, even though it's a quality opponent if they don't look good against Ferris. So that one's
tough,
interesting.
Though. That's tough.
Yeah, I mean it's got to be looked bad to really drop, like look really bad. But
UCO
Hayes is in a similar spot.
You're spot, and they're ranked 3rd. So yeah.
Yeah, Hayes is in a similar spot though, where they play a team ranked 8 spots ahead of them. So if that goes the way I think a lot of people Sunday were predicting, and the way I'm predicting, Hayes could be a big riser in this too. The biggest change happens week 0 to week 1 in this poll. So tune back in next week and see where everything shakes out. We'll have a little bit better idea of what all these teams have.
And that's why it is a preseason poll. John, we went ahead and put this graphic out for maybe top names that we would look at for the Harlan Hill. We didn't chat with you about this much. We've got a few guys from the MIAA on here. If you're going to kind of handicap this, do you think that there is a path for somebody from the MIAA to win the award?
The biggest MIAA guy you have on there is Jalen Cottrell. I don't think a running back's going to win it, and I don't think their running back in particular is going to win it because of that. Now, the guy in the middle of the screen is Jet Huff. I think if you're an MIAA person who wants to see somebody win the Harlan Hill for some reason and not just rooting for your own team, sure. Huff's got the best chance of anybody here. I would draw some attention to Jack Strand out there, Reggie Ratzliff if somebody other than a quarterback wins it, and with Ferris State down there, it could be several guys, but obviously you put Golker on there because he's the quarterback. If they just run the table and look like Ferris State, that's a chance too. So those are some that really stand out to me on this list. And of course, AC is probably in the chat screaming about Mr. Drew Nash as well. So I'll throw him in that mix. So those would be the ones that I'm kind of keeping an eye on. But just like the poll, this is preseason. anybody can do anything. It could be a guy we've never heard of that transfers in or takes advantage of an opportunity. So fun to highlight some of the best players in the nation, though.
Yeah, and a lot of guys from SR4 here. When you take a look at the fact you've got Harding, you've got Angelo there, you've got the guys from out in the RMAC, along with the guys here from UCO. That's a whole lot of players from this graphic, probably more than half of them. When you got guys like Flynn Sheely, the wide receiver from Mines, who's probably every bit the equal to Reggie Ratzlaff, if we're going to be honest. You start looking at this and you go, okay, only two guys can escape from that super region as finalists. So that's really going to kind of cannibalize some of that. So you have to start thinking, okay, who maybe has a clearer path in some of the other ones, and that may be something to look at as we continue forward.
I'm real curious to see what Flynn Sheely does this year as kind of the guy in that offense. Last year, he kind of shared the spotlight. I think in the RMAC, I know this isn't the RMAC show, but you could see a situation like last year in the MIAA where the two best receivers in the country were in the same conference and just putting up gaudy numbers every week, kind of going back and forth with that. So that'll be fun to watch in the region now that the MIAA and the RMAC are together there.
Yeah. Well, folks, that's about all we've got for this week's show. Next week we will be back with finally, John. There will be some games that have been played at that point. We'll have some stuff to kind of review. A huge week for the MIAA with 10 games, and at least half of them are with ranked opponents being involved in these games. So very big week to kind of show out for the league. Any final thoughts before we head out, buddy?
Just to wrap it up, we talked about this kind of going into the week and obviously going through all these games, but kudos to the MIAA. Every school scheduled a good team, and like I said, punching up in their competition makes for a really fun week. And I'm glad we have this week to learn a lot about these teams, because sometimes if you don't schedule like this, it could be 2 or 3 weeks where we're still saying, well, we don't really know about this team. We're going to learn a lot about every single team this week, and that's going to be fun.
As fans, this is so much more enjoyable with these week 0 games versus how it was in the past when we only got to see teams playing within their conference in the silos. I can't say that enough. So thanks once again to everyone who is involved with making this happen, where week 0 is a real thing. And we now, John, get a much better chance to see non-conference games and get a much better idea of true strength of schedule when teams play outside their league as frequently as we are.
And if you would like all of your tailgate eaten up at your at Mankato on Thursday, feel free to invite me and Witt out, and we'll take care of any unwanted food for you.
As always, when we travel and we're boots on the ground, please stop on by, say hello, say you watch the show. We're all kind of in this thing together in the small college world. So thank you once again for tuning on in, and we will see you next week.